nurses are uniquely positioned to tackle some of the most serious problems that are health problems in this world. And those problems often are psychosocial problems. I believe we're uniquely able to address those because we have opportunities in clinical work. As we sit down with families, sometimes far more timely visits than a physician would have, we translate many of the things that we learned perhaps in psychology and sociology. If you're a bachelor's level nurse especially, you would have had that background. And if you'd gone on to get a degree with an emphasis in community mental health, as I later did, then that would give you more. There are many ways that we can be uniquely positioned to address issues of extremely complicated community mental health problems, regardless of whether you're doing mental health, public health, or working in a hospital. People in crisis often are talking about their family issues. They'll talk about it with nurses when they never would talk about it with a therapist. They would never talk about problems with their next door neighbors. But we nurses have a very high trust level in society, and the Gallup polls have shown that. We're far in advance of clergy, especially after the recent sexual abuse scandals that we have had over the last 20 to 30 years. And so oftentimes when we sit down with families, issues of what I call complicity come about. Complicity oftentimes with family issues like sexual and domestic abuse. Now, I believe, and I will probably say this more than once on this YouTube channel, that the majority of people in prison have experienced complicity with some sort of trauma in their childhood. It could be that an adult came and sold them drugs. And then when people found out that the kid took the drugs, the kid gets blamed instead of the one that sold the drugs. The kid's the problem, right? Well, we need to go to the source, and that's the sellers. And we all know that as nurses. We need to address the kid's problem, yes. But the kid doesn't need to get blamed for the problem that is really an adult problem that should be solved by adults. And oftentimes the kids that go to those situations of taking drugs have suffered from other complicity with abuse in their families. I'm talking about criminal abuse. I'm not talking about the little swat on the behind that some of you would say, oh, you're just exaggerating. No, I'm talking about criminal abuse where a child is actually beaten or where there is sexual abuse or where that child is forced to witness things they should never have witnessed in the way of domestic abuse. All of those things are crimes, and the crimes either against the mom or the kids, and that's extremely traumatizing. So I want you to go to my website, takecourage.org, and I would like for you to also read some of my material in the process and to see just how all of this developed. My latest book is Enlarging Boston's Spotlight, and it's all about complicity. Complicity of an entire city when they knew in 1993, if anybody had been reading the papers or listening to drive time radio in 1993, they probably knew very well that the Archdiocese in Boston had at least 20 predators that they had brushed under the rug and had not done anything but give a geographical relocation to. So they had sent that problem on, done what some people call passing the trash. That's a term that's used in educator abuse. So as a result of that, and as a result of it sitting on the back burner for many years, finally journalists got brave enough to do what we've been asking them to do for 15 years. Those of us that had become recognized experts to a degree in this field. In Enlarging Boston Spotlight, you will also read in the first chapter that I happen to be called on to Boston radio in 93 to address the very article that got lost and came back to the attention of all of America and the world in the 2016 Oscar-winning movie, Spotlight. It was the article that the Boston Globe itself buried in its own archives. Complicity is a complex subject. When we learn to stop blaming victims for what has happened, but hold them responsible for behavior that happens after the trauma that they've experienced, we are well on the road to making changes. And believe me, nurses can be a big part of that. When we began just a little while ago, you heard some music by Betty Rodd. Betty Rodd is one of my nurse friends, and I've met many nurses that are great advocates. And Betty is a musician. And she sings songs that are not only for survivors of trauma, but for advocates. And you will find a number of those and mention of her work over and over on this YouTube channel as we develop it. So I encourage you to also look at what I'll be putting on about advocacy to help you know some of the ways that you can respond to individuals who are in PTSD or have the recycling of pain over and over they cannot seem to get rid of. And as many of you as nurses know, when a person is hurting physically, the psychological pain often recycles because they go back to other times of great pain in their lives. And pain is just one of those elusive things. So, the physical pain feeds the psychological and so forth, and we all know that. So as a nurse, you have the power. Take it, develop it, learn everything you can about complicity, and especially as the whole topics of complicity, that what we deal with in these things weaves in with your work. Thank you.